Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the Babes Talking Business podcast. Today's episode, we have the lovely Kaylee Gray. She's a body confidence expert, a registered dietitian, a speaker, a corporate wellness consultant, a non-diet coach, and an incredible author. Having struggled with disordered eating in her teenage years, Kaylee is really incredibly passionate about helping teams and women all around the world be free from dieting and help them feel confident with their body image once again. When she's not running her empire, My Food Culture, which reaches clients all around the globe, you can find her in her beautiful Sunshine Coast home, living her mission and doing as she preaches, living a life of health and wellness. In this episode in particular, we dive into topics like what it can really be like transitioning into the coaching space. I know a lot of our listeners are coaches of some sort and could potentially be transitioning into one-on-one coaching or wanting to open their own practice. And Kaylee really does give us a beautiful insight into what it was like for her. We also talk about working out how much you should charge per hour. Kaylee shares her personal face-down moments and her mindset that helped her overcome those times. And we also talk about some pretty real truths about entrepreneurship that most people don't really consider before becoming a business owner. You can find all of Kaylee's social media links in the show notes below so that you can connect with her, as well as grab access to her book, her website, and her Instagram. We'd like to take this moment to say a massive special big thank you to our beautiful sponsors, the Health Style Emporium. You can find them over at www.thehsc.net or just search the hashtag TheHSC or the HSC Coach on Instagram. This is a beautiful online holistic program for women which really helps people to become intuitive with their bodies, learn how to eat. We also dive into mindset and spiritual health and emotional health, as well as physical health. You can also check out our website over at www.babestalkingbusiness.com, where we have loads of more information, including upcoming events we have around the year. Don't forget, if you loved this episode, let us know. Head over to the iTunes app, and we'd love for you to rate us with 5 sparkly stars. And don't forget to leave your handle so that we can shout you out on Instagram, because we choose one winner every week to shout out and share with our tribe. So without further ado, we're so excited for you to listen to this total powerhouse, the beautiful Kaylee Gray.
I'm so excited. We have the beautiful Kaylee Gray on the show today. How are you, beautiful?
I am fantastic. Thank you. How are you, beautiful ladies?
We're good. We're so excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for providing this space. And can I just say, I've been binge listening your podcast, and it's amazing and such a wonderful, inspirational, educational resource for business entrepreneurs out there. So thank you.
Thanks, beautiful. That means a lot.
I know when we were chatting, we connected online. This is what I love about just the online space. I mean, it can such a beautiful place to connect with other women who have similar values and visions. And obviously we were chatting, and I heard your story about you used to work in corporate as well, and you're really passionate about health and especially nutrition. So for a lot of women who maybe don't know who you are, I've been reading your book, Body Confidence, actually, but for a lot of women who don't know, do you want to fill them in, and where did your business journey start for you?
Yes. So I'm a dietitian clinically in my background, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this. I think you can, and certainly some of the people listening will. I just had that niggle in me that there was something more to offer. And so I got into dietetics because I had struggled with an eating disorder. And, 10 years ago when I was going through university and doing my degree, that wasn't as widely talked about as it is today. It was very taboo. And then when I went and I started working with people in the real world, I found that, this is something that needed to be talked about, but I didn't have the courage initially to go out and do it on my own. But I think it was a couple of things that forced me eventually. It was a stifling feeling in my soul that I think there's certainly a wonderful place for traditional healthcare, but I love juicy conversations, the belly-to-belly deep stuff with people, and our Medicare infrastructure just isn't set up for that kind of service offering. So I wanted to be able to offer more, and I wanted more in my life as well. So, it's really been 5 years now finding my feet in business, 2.5 years officially running in my current company, which is My Food Culture. And I think, I'm fully working full-time now in that business, but initially it was a lot of straddling. I did everything from retail through to, baristering to, you name it, to kind of get things floating. And I've had help along the way as well. So it's not been linear. It's not been easy, but my God, it's worth it, isn't it, when you get to the place you've been dreaming about?
Yeah, I can certainly relate. We both can, working in bars and hospitality. I'll never forget my last shift in hospitality. I literally cried of gratitude because I was like, no more. So I love that you come from that, and that this was a side hustle for you once upon a time. And now it's obviously your baby that you do and dive into.
How long were you working in corporate for before you really started to get that inkling that you wanted something different?
So I think if I was completely honest with myself, even in prac, the final year of university, you're out on placement, and I was going, oh, this is not what I anticipated it would be like 4 years ago when I signed up for this. But on a really deep level, it was probably 2 years in when, it was starting to affect my health. I was quite burnt out, as a lot of, new health professionals are. We're not given skills to cope with empathy and the emotional load that comes with, working in that space with very sick people. Up to 10 hours a day was a typical work day for me in clinic back then. I think the universe kind of presented me with a few different serendipitous opportunities, but because my heart was open to that and I was so ready for it, I took them as well. So 2 years in, I think, was when I properly made the first leap, which interestingly enough was into a nutrition, media and marketing role. So I was writing for magazines, I was doing a little bit of freelance on the side, still had my toe in the water clinically as well, so to speak, to keep my my consulting relevant, but I was doing really deep creative work for that third year, which has been so helpful being in business as well. I viewed it kind of as my internship.
Yeah. I love that. And for those who are listening who are wanting to get into that coaching space, I'd love to hear your experience with the transition, because obviously being in a clinical setting versus being your own boss and being, the business owner of the practice, what was that like? Because I know a lot of people think, oh my God, it sounds amazing, I can't wait, but let's hear about the realness behind that.
So I wish I had a really glossy, beautiful, Instagram-worthy success story to be like, oh, it was just effortless and beautiful and totally in flow initially. It wasn't. There were lots of tears. And thank goodness I've got a very supportive, loving partner. You need those kind of foundational people in your life to lean on a bit through this period, because, before this podcast went live, I was sort of saying to girls, business brings up every single insecurity, doubt about self, it mirrors all your stuff right back up to you. And that certainly did rear its head and continues to at times along the way as well. So, but I'll answer your question in a very practical sense, which is I would advise anybody considering moving into coaching to not just jump ship straight away. My experience was it was quite a slow start. And, health professionals, we work in that paradigm of you're charging, a set amount, a set fee for an hour of your consulting time. And then, the payment model for coaching is very different, which I think it's mutually beneficial to both parties, because I give so much value to my coaching clients now, and I get better value in return for my time and effort and expertise as well. But it was really uncomfortable charging that money initially. And so a lot of people said no to start with. And I had to go and find mentors and coaches and courses to upskill and learn how to position and market myself in a way that's not like sleazy selling, but in a way that gives you the confidence to communicate your value to the people you're trying to reach. So yeah, that was an abysmal failure probably for the first 6 months, if I think realistically. And then, I had my first few clients trickling in for the next 6 months, and, I'm almost too busy at this point in time, coaching wise. So it takes time. And I think, being honest and kind to yourself as you're learning new skills. I mean, you didn't learn to become a health professional overnight. Why would you expect yourself to be a badass, successful entrepreneur overnight as well?
Yeah, so true. And I don't know, I might even use this as a space for me to get vulnerable too. But I know when I pivoted from like the corporate and working in child protection, being like having the psychology background to working as a life coach, like, how you said, like, business is one of those things that just has a way of bringing up all your insecurities and mirroring your shit back to you. I remember one of the things for me, and sometimes it still comes up, it was just kind of like, I feel like I was an academic, and people have this wishy-washy sense around a coach. Like, but anyone can be a coach. And leaving corporate, I kind of felt like I'd worked so hard for something that was like an ego or pride around working up a corporate ladder, to then being like, you know what, like, I'm just going to be a coach. And it's not just a coach. What we do online in what women are doing in this space is amazing. But I know for me, it's like I kept having to be like, I'm not getting the same credibility that I wanted, or I'm not getting that same recognition, and people don't recognize, I did work in corporate. Does that change something? Or, I did actually go to uni and I've got these years of degree behind me working in clinical. Does that give you any more value for my time and services? So I'd love to know, when you were kind of making your pivot, did any of that nasty stuff come up for you?
Oh my gosh, I relate to every single thing you just said then, Loz, 100%. And I also, even still today, sometimes feel insecure about how I'm perceived by other health professionals even, which is ridiculous, isn't it? Because, like, what does anybody's opinion of you really matter if you know in the depths of your soul that you are being of service and doing a good job? But I think you're right. There is that sort of, like, I would almost call it like academic snobbery a little bit about, like, people can be a bit territorial around their scope of practice, and sometimes with good reason. Like, you don't want anybody off the street performing surgery or something like that. But when you do have so much to offer in this space as a coach, it really speaks to, I think, a very female trait where we do tend to undervalue ourselves. And my mantra, anytime I feel that niggle of, self-doubt or criticism popping up, it's like, I am enough. I am enough. I make a positive difference to others. But it's a conscious, deliberate effort. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it totally does. And I'm just, because we've all come in similar spaces, obviously Shane coming from a clinical background as well, being a nurse and working in practice. I know, and the biggest intention behind this podcast was we wanted to create a space where women can just, like, have these belly to belly or screen to screen conversations about what really goes on behind business and get rid of the smoke and mirrors. Because another thing, I don't know about you, but I'll talk about another vulnerability or thing that came up for me pivoting in business too, was when women were making that pivot to being a coach and working in the online space, they start talking and posting about having these 6-figure launches and, oh my gosh, like, it happened overnight and I'm, like, working for myself full time now, and oh my gosh, you can have a 6-figure month too. And it's like, what's the reality of, like, how long did you build that up? And I know you said, like, you're at a point now where you're at capacity, but how many years, and what were all the face down moments that got you there? Because I know for a lot of coaches on the line, they're like, why am I not making 6 figures a month? And how do you even find enough clients to do that? Like, what the hell?
Oh my gosh. So I have a graveyard of embarrassing blogs and websites that I've started. Like, if you were to log into my Squarespace account, you'd see, like, all the ones that are expired and stuff. So I had a lot of false starts and failures. I went into business with another health professional 5 years ago and virtually put all my personal savings into that. And for various different reasons in her life, she couldn't hold up that business. And so we lost everything. And I mean, it's devastating when you lose your time, your money, but it was the time, the late nights, because that was a side hustle on top of my 9 to 5 at that point. So I felt not jaded for a good year, but kind of just creatively exhausted and depleted. So I went and got a 9 to, I stuck with the 9 to 5 and just allowed my soul and spirit to kind of replenish after that big failure. But I think, if something's calling to you strong enough, you will find a way. And I'm still finding my way. Like I said to you before, I still don't have the perfect business. I still don't have it figured out. I mean, you know how long it takes for me to get back to you on Messenger, Lauren. Like, I'm kind of at that tipping point where I need a little bit of support, and haven't quite figured that out yet. But realistically, from when I first gave it a proper go in terms of generating income, that was 5 years ago, and it's only really been making a proper living for the last 18 months.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
And that's what I mean. I want more people to hear those stories, because a lot of people are just seeing the smoke and mirrors. They don't realise the years have gone on in the background, and so many women are doing amazing things, and they've got amazing gifts, and they're giving up on themselves because they've only been doing it for 6 months and haven't got the results. They've only got it for 12 months. It's like, it takes most people. You go through university, like you said, it took you 4 years to even learn how to be a practitioner. Like, you're not going to learn how to be a successful entrepreneur overnight either. Like, give yourself the same 4-year grace.
Totally. And you've got to have the face down moments. Like, they are part of the journey. And I think when people sign up to entrepreneurship, they think, oh my God, it's so cool. Like, I can say I have a side hustle, or I can say I have a business. And like, having a business for some reason has been put on a pedestal. But what people aren't sort of like realizing is that with that comes the face down moments, the failures, the mirror shining back everything that you're avoiding in every other aspect of your life, the rejection, and the growth that you have to go through, the self-worth that you need to grow. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's like you've got to go to the gym, you've got to flex that muscle. People forget, or I think maybe they ignore the fact that that's a part of it, or maybe they don't know. They don't know.
That's why we need this podcast, because they don't know, because people aren't talking about it. They're just saying the pretty stuff. And it's funny because I had like a moment this week. I had a FaceTime moment. I'm just like, everything's challenging in me right now. I feel so stretched, and my partner in his own business is feeling the same. And I just remember having a chat this week being like, one of the biggest lessons I think I've learned in the last 4 years of building my business is that entrepreneurship really isn't for everyone. Like, as much as I think it's amazing and it can give you so much, the more I'm learning about people who I'm trying to mentor in business, it's just some people just don't have what it takes. Some people don't have the grit or the vision or the work ethic, and they just don't want it bad enough. And some people are better to that 9 to 5 model as well. So,
and that's okay.
That's perfectly okay. Absolutely. Perfectly. We need those people, and like, there's so many beautiful people in those jobs. But it's probably been my biggest realization this week, just being like, what it actually takes, and being okay with some people just not being for all people.
100%. Like, thank goodness we've got people who are prepared to go and work. My partner works full time in a hospital, and thank God for that, because we need people who are happy and can survive and thrive in those environments and with that structure. And I think too, like, there's been times when I've asked myself, not can I do this, because I believe that anything's possible for most people if you want it badly enough. But the question sometimes that I really reflect on is, am I willing to do this? And there has been times when sometimes, I've been hanging on by a thread as to yes, because certainly when you've got lots of bills coming out of your ears, lots of no's, strings of stuff not being in flow, the pressure can be really high. And if you don't want to choose that for yourself, that's okay too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about, like, how did you come back from that? Because, what happened for you in your first business, I've experienced something myself with a business that I started while I was at university that totally flopped. And I would love to hear, like, what kind of work did you do to build your confidence back up and to give this another go? And, like, what would you say was the highlight thing that you implemented to give your passion, your business, another shot?
That is a really great question. And, it feels like a lifetime ago. So I'm trying to really deeply think into that. So the first thing that springs to mind is to just keep learning. Like, even if you don't know what your thing is yet, but you still know on some level that you want to be ready for it, keep being inspired, reading books, listening to podcasts like this, going to meetup groups, because I think learning for me has always sparked creativity myself as well. So I, during that period, for example, I did Marie Forleo's B School, which was fantastic. And even though I wasn't sure what my business was just yet, it got me thinking. So continue to grow, continue to learn, give yourself that space and self-compassion and kindness as well. I think, I'm 32 as of a couple of weeks ago, and when I reflect back to the energy of my 20s, I was in such a rush for stuff. Whereas when I think about it, that gap year, if you want to call it, when I wasn't working on anything business-oriented, like that is the tiniest little part of my life. Like, if you need to take some time for yourself, go traveling. Yeah. If you're having a family, like whatever the case may be, you can always create opportunities for yourself. And we've got more time than we realize, I think, as well. So, yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, I love that.
It's really resonating with I think it was something you shared this week, Shan, on your Instagram about something about...
like if it's in your nature, you can kill her confidence, but you'll never kill her ambition. Yeah.
And it's like that, like even if something knocks you off the horse for a little bit, or you need to take some time, if it's something that's deep within you, that ambition's, you can't get rid of it, hey?
You're wired.
You are. Like, even if everything fell on its face tomorrow in my business, I'd probably, like you said, I'd probably go back to a 9 to 5, because maybe if I had to, I've been lucky to save, so I won't. But if I did, but there's nothing, once you've got that taste of that and that ambition is in your blood, I don't think you can you'll never give up on entrepreneurship. Like, that's why most people who are successful, they might have had 3 or 4 flops you don't even hear about until they have their success. Yeah. But they keep coming back because that ambition, it's deep. It's so deep.
It is. Yeah, it is. And, you said something along the lines of that quote around confidence as well. I also think that if I can speak to that for a seckie, that your fear doesn't necessarily ever completely go away. Like, if anybody's listening to this going, I'm just waiting till I feel fully confident and I'll put myself out there. Like, I was literally breathing away the start of a panic attack as I was writing the copy for my website, because I was coming out publicly about having had an eating disorder. My partner didn't know. My family didn't know. My friends didn't know. So, and I still get nervous and feel stretched, multiple times. So I think that the idea that you need to be confident all the time is a bit of a fallacy. It's like, feel the fear, and take action in a way that aligns with what you really, really want for yourself and to be of service to this world as well.
Yeah. 5-second rule, hey? 5 seconds.
What's that?
It's a
Mel Robbins.
Yeah, an awesome book by Mel Robbins. She talks about a strategy where you just count back from 5, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just do it. And it's just that little second of courage can get you such a long way. And it's,
and I think it's also perception of fear and anxiety, because I talk about it pretty openly now, but I get anxiety quite often. I still get it. Like, I can feel an anxiety attack coming on, but I've learned that it's just a perception of it. Like, for me, anxiety is just excitement without breath. So if I learn just to breathe into it and be like, oh my gosh, like, why are my hands tingling? Why are my breaths getting short? And why is my heart racing? I'm actually really excited about something, or I'm about to do something outside of my comfort zone that, it's going to be scary. But I don't know about you guys, but think back to the best things that have ever happened to you in your life, whether it was starting a business, whether it was going on your first date with your now hubby, or finding out you were pregnant, or traveling the world solo. Like, anything that's ever been the best thing that happened to you, I bet you before it happened, you felt scary or you were anxious. Yes. So I always think every time those feelings come up, if you let fear cheat you out of it, you could be cheating yourself out of the best things that ever happened to you in your life. Like, what's on the other side of that fear? So for me personally, if you're somebody who feels like you still struggle with fear or anxiety, that's how I kind of get through it, if that helps you in business or just in life.
Good advice.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Preach, sister. Callie, I have a question for you around, if we can go back to the coaching side of things. Something that I've noticed with a lot of girlfriends or women that I mentor is the whole choosing your price thing. The and then the comparisonitis happens where you're like, oh, but that coach charges X amount, and am I worth that? And did that come up for you when you started your business?
I know people listening can't see my face, but I'm laughing. Yes. And it still does. Of course it does. Because, when you've got that beautiful heart that wants to help and be of service, it's kind of like, if you can see, I don't know about you guys, but when I see suffering or I see somebody in need, I just want to jump in and rescue and save them. And it's uncomfortable sort of saying, yes, but this is what it costs in exchange for the help that I offer. Absolutely. I wouldn't say so much with the comparing specifically. I'm just trying to think if I compared to other coaches, probably more so what I might do is compare my perception of what my coaching practice looks like to other people. Because if you in my experience, a lot of coaches aren't transparent necessarily about what they're charging their clients unless you are trying to engage in business with them. So I don't know about you guys. I find those figures hard to find out. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, I constantly have those questions of, am I doing enough? Am I making enough? Am I good enough? Constantly. Yeah. It never completely goes away for me.
No, I don't think it does for anyone really. And it's just that money story, I guess, isn't it? And that evolves. We all have a dirty money story, and as we evolve as business owners and as we break through that glass ceiling, then there's another one, and then there's another one after that. So yeah, I think that's totally normal.
Yeah, I highly recommend finding a good coach to help you with this stuff. And I remember my coach, my first good coach, when she was telling me what I needed to start charging, I remember just trying to hold back tears. It was it was like that squirmy, icky feeling in your belly. And I think when you've kind of got that feeling, you're about in the right price point. And she gave me some really helpful advice, which has been of comfort to me during this process, which is about half of the people that you engage with should actually say no to your services if you're priced accordingly. She's like, if you're priced in a way that everybody can access you, she's like, you can't scale your business or you're going to be completely depleted and burnt out and exhausted, which I've done multiple times. So yeah, you're not going to be the right fit for everybody, and that is really okay.
I love that. That's great advice.
I love that too. I was only recently faced with that challenge earlier this year because I went back. So I'm launching a book like we spoke about last week.
Yes.
And I wanted to just get myself familiar with my content. So I opened up my doors for life coach again, which I haven't done in 4 years because I've just been focusing on business coaching with Babes in Business. But it was that same thing. It was kind of what do I charge, and how much do I charge? And that it challenges your self-worth. You've got to put a price on your head again. And I haven't experienced that in ages because we've created a business that creates residual income. So trying to think back to a per hour figure, I'm like, ooh, this is challenging.
Yeah, so you were thinking back to having to charge by the hour, and I think the daunting thing about charging as a coach too is you're really selling yourself. People are buying you, and that's where all the vulnerability and scary, self-questioning of your worth can so easily pop up. You're not selling a car or a product. If people reject that, so what? It's a material object. Yeah. It can feel like a personal rejection if you don't have your own mindset and self-worth really clear.
And I guess that's in any business, not just coaching. It doesn't matter what type of business you have. You have a product or a service that will help people in some way, and you need to show people how that'll be of service to them, and that's essentially selling. And I think some people forget that's what business is. It's about providing a service, but showing people why they will value it and why they will get something from that. And so many people like curl up when at the thought of that and freak out and think, oh no, this isn't for me, or this isn't what I signed up for. But it's totally part of the game, isn't it?
It is. And it's okay to suck as well. Like, I remember my first sales call vividly, like when I was moving away from a consult by consult basis to a coaching package. And oh my gosh, it was so awkward, and I did a terrible job, and I still feel so sad for that lady for the experience she got from me. So it's okay to just be a bit messy and icky whilst you're figuring it out. Like all things, the more you practice it, the more it will become comfortable, and you will create more ease and confidence around it. But you got to do it. You got to get started right.
I'm loving this conversation. It's bringing back so many of those feelings that I had in like the first 2 years of my business, just like the uncomfort. Like we still have them now, but not as frequent because we do it so regularly. But just at the start, the fumbling, the word vomiting, the rejection, it was so icky starting off.
Do you know, like this is such a funny story. I can remember my first sales call as well. So this is hilarious because I'm just going to explain it to you guys. I did a post on Instagram, and it was like pretty much saying like, I'm open for business, and like anyone who wants to coach with me, get in touch. And so this lady had like messaged me, and she was like, I'd love to learn more. And all of a sudden like my heart starts beating, and I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to say? And so I wrote, like hand wrote a script on a piece of paper out of a notepad, and I ripped it out of the book, and then I put it in my handbag because she wanted me to call her, which I was like not even planning to do. So I had to call her, but I was running errands, and I remember I was driving home, and it was like, say, 12:30 when I had to call her. So I pull my car over. I'm in my little Toyota Yaris. I pull over on the side of the road, and I get my little scrunched up piece of paper with my script on it, and I'm like talking to her on the phone, following my notes, and I signed her up, my first client. Yeah, I remember that. And
well done.
I have that piece of paper still. I actually do. It's in my office.
And, you know, I think there's such gold in that, what you've just shared, because so many people do not want to jump on the phone and actually connect with another human these days. Like, social media is a fantastic tool, but I'm willing to bet that on some level that lady signed up with you because she wanted to buy the essence of you, which only comes out so much on social media. But, you know, having that conversation, showing that you cared enough to pick up the phone and call her, there's so much value in just the act of that, reaching out that way. So well done. I wish I could say that my first go was as good as that.
No, it wasn't good. It was so bad, but it worked.
But you still got the outcome you wanted. So well done.
It.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So if you're new, guys, to business and you're feeling these feelings, we've all been there. It wasn't pretty.
They're totally normal.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
So I'd love to know, maybe before we close up, just if I know there's a lot of people listening to this who are in business or wanting to get into business, so this advice can apply to them too. But I really want to ask, because I know a lot of girls who listen to this are women who are passionate about health and wellness. They're working in the health and wellness systems. What advice would you give to women like that who maybe want to make more of an impact and then not enjoying working in the 9-to-5 corporate, and they can feel that tug? What advice would you give to those ladies?
So much. My brain just splintered in about 1,000 different directions. So I think the first thing is to get in touch with like your core why. And I know that's a really cliche thing that you hear bandied a lot with business advice, but it is something I draw on all the time. And I think having that clear sense of purpose and why you want to make an impact is also an asset for you when you decide that it's time to take action. So that would be the first thing. But in a practical sense, I think you've got to look after your financial health first. I think so many entrepreneurs fail because they go out on their own, like you said earlier, kind of expecting that quick success, and by necessity almost have to throw the towel in early whilst they're to support themselves and pay their bills again. So I think also today being such an instant gratification kind of society, it is okay to have a season of tilting into maybe you are working full time and doing just a few hours on the weekend and kind of like slowly tilting it over as your revenue increases.
Yeah.
What is it? I think you called it strategic imbalance in an episode, which I really loved. So if you know that this is something that you will regret if you never go out and try it, go and try it, but be willing to be strategically imbalanced in the domain of work for a season so that you can look after your financial health as a buffer to slowly increase your practice on the side. Don't just jump all in and expect that it's just going to be like magic overnight.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, just let that resonate for a second.
You're
guys.
talking our language.
I don't mean to be doom and gloom because anything is possible. There's so much abundance out there. It is honestly, I think the most incredible time to be an entrepreneur, and there are so many opportunities, but in the interest of your sanity and in the interest of having longevity and stamina behind your dreams, the reality is we need to have a bit of support in place whilst we're transitioning over, I think. So yeah, that's one thing I wish I'd understood a bit differently.
I love it.
Boom. I think we could end it just there.
We could.
I want everyone to just listen to that, take that in and re-listen to that again. Because women, we just want it all. We want it all now, and we're fired up and we're hungry, but that's how you burn out.
Yeah.
So I really love that we got to end that on that note, because I think it's just so important, and so many women need to hear that right now as well.
Totally. Carly, thank you so much for your time today, beautiful.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I love this.
It's been such a pleasure chatting with you and just getting to know you with your business hat on, because what you've created is obviously inspirational, and I know there are so many women that would just love to have a business like yours, but it's just so good to hear the behind the scenes and behind the curtain, I should say.
Yeah, and I'll make sure I pop in the notes. You guys want to head over and see Carly's business. She's got a beautiful book as well called Body Confidence, which I am nearly finished, but I love there's so many activities in there to help you actually apply what you're learning around being happy and being healthy and having that confidence within your body as well. So thank you for being you.
Aw, thank you for being you. Thank you so much, girls.
We hope you loved today's episode of the Babes Talking Business podcast. We're loving bringing you these episodes. Our mission really is to share and add value to your week, whether you're a budding entrepreneur or you're a veteran and you've been owning your own business for quite some time. Don't forget, if you're loving our podcast, we would absolutely love and appreciate for you to rate us and drop in some love on the iTunes app by giving us some feedback. We want to do something really exciting, and we want to do a shout out of the week every week on our Instagram for anyone who reviews us. So please make sure you leave us 5 sparkly stars and you give us your feedback, but don't forget to add your Instagram handle or website so that we can shout you out. You can follow us on Instagram at Babes Talking Business, or you can check out our website at www.babestalkingbusiness.com. You can check out the Health Style Emporium online holistic health program, our beautiful sponsors over at www.thehsc.net. All of these links are available below in our podcast notes and on our website. Thanks for tuning in.